Shocking moment in Congress. Bondi charges straight into the question everyone has been dying to hear. Where did Ghislaine Maxwell really end up? The answer lands, thunder flips the room, and leaves lawmakers scrambling. You will not believe what happens next.
And yet Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, received perk after perk in prison. In July, she had a 2-day interview with your deputy and President Trump's former defense attorney, Todd Blanche. Just days after that, Maxwell was transferred from a federal correctional institution in Florida to a minimum security camp in Texas, which she, as a sex offender, would normally be ineligible for. At this new facility, as the ranking member talked about, and by the way, it's nicknamed Club Fed, we've heard reports that she's been afforded special privileges: puppy time, private workouts, personal mail, secretarial services. Attorney General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No. And
Thank you.
Let me keep going. No, let me keep going.
Perfect. Well, I
did not know she was being transferred.
I asked you yes or no.
She was not transferred to a lower
Mr. Chairman,
level.
please stop the clock and remind the witness of the rules. One rule she needs to understand here.
And I'm glad that we're agreeing. So when we're agreeing, we can move on to some other things. But I want you to know that every time she does get these perks, and it's been publicly reported, that the folks she's abused, the survivors who are sitting here, they see themselves as being denied justice. They feel re-traumatized. And I'm glad that we agree on that. But she should not be in that prison. And she needs to be moved back to a maximum security prison as soon as possible. But what she has told another committee here is that she won't cooperate with them unless she gets clemency from Donald Trump. It's just crazy to consider that she can be wielding this kind of influence within the administration. But that begs the question, who ordered her to be transferred to the minimum security prison that she was ineligible for? Who signed off on the special privileges? Was it Mr. Blanche? Was it one of your other subordinates? So please, can you tell us who sent her there, since you don't agree she should be there?
I said I do not agree she should receive special treatment. She was transferred, I learned after the fact, to the same level facility, and that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level facility, I don't know why, but you know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should be talking about Irina Zarutska.
I have a couple of
died
other
on a subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So of course we're moving back to you. It is all about you. So as we've heard, she took the fifth in response to every single question in that committee hearing.
Pamela Jo Bondi, serving as the 87th Attorney General of the United States, faced direct questioning during a House Appropriations Committee hearing regarding the circumstances surrounding Ghislaine Maxwell transfer to a minimum security federal prison facility, a development that has drawn scrutiny from multiple congressional oversight panels and legal observers tracking the case. The exchange occurred during budget testimony, where committee members diverted from fiscal matters to press Pamela Jo Bondi on the administrative decision that relocated Ghislaine Maxwell from a higher security environment to the less restrictive federal correctional institution in Tallahassee, Florida, a facility typically housing inmates convicted of nonviolent offenses and white-collar crimes. Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted in December 2021 on federal charges related to the sexual exploitation and abuse of minors alongside Jeffrey Epstein, had been serving her 20-year sentence at the federal Correctional Institution in Danbury, Connecticut before the transfer was executed in 2023, a move that officials initially attributed to Standard Bureau of Prisons protocol for inmate management and facility capacity considerations. This is the Patel Talk. Subscribe for verified updates as this report continues the questioning of Pamela Jo Bondi, centered on whether political influence or external pressure played any role in the reassignment decision, with committee members citing public records requests that showed unusual administrative processing timelines compared to typical inmate transfer procedures within the federal correction system. Pamela Jo Bondi responded that the Bureau of Prisons operates under established statutory guidelines for inmate classification and security level determinations, emphasizing that she had no personal involvement in a specific transfer authorization and that such operational matters fall under the jurisdiction of the Bureau's director and regional administrators rather than the Attorney General's direct oversight. The hearing transcript shows Pamela Jo Bondi stating that security level assessments are conducted by trained classification specialists who evaluate factors including sentence length, disciplinary record, program participation, and risk assessment metrics, a process she described as insulated from political interference by design. Ghislaine Maxwell legal team had previously filed motions seeking transfer to a minimum security facility, arguing that her security classification was disproportionate to her institutional behavior record and that she qualified for placement under Bureau of Prisons Program Statement 5108, which governs inmate security designation and custody classification. Court records from her post-conviction proceedings show that her attorneys, including Bobby C. Sternheim and Mark S. Cohen, submitted documentation highlighting Ghislaine Maxwell's lack of disciplinary infractions during her pretrial detention at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn and her initial incarceration period, factors that typically weigh in favor of reduced security classifications within the federal prison system's algorithmic assessment framework. The timing of the transfer occurring approximately 18 months after her sentencing aligned with standard review cycles for inmates serving sentences exceeding 10 years, though critics have noted that high-profile cases often face extended scrutiny before security reductions are approved. The Federal Correctional Institution in Tallahassee, where Ghislaine Maxwell is currently housed, operates as a low-security facility with approximately 1,200 female inmates, offering educational programs, vocational training, and structured work assignments that differ significantly from the restrictive environment of higher security institutions. Bureau of Prisons records indicate that the facility has housed other inmates convicted of serious federal offenses who have demonstrated compliant institutional behavior, including former pharmaceutical executive Elizabeth Holmes and various white-collar offenders whose cases generated substantial media attention during prosecution. Ghislaine Maxwell placement there triggered immediate scrutiny from victim advocacy organizations and several members of Congress, who questioned whether her association with Jeffrey Epstein and the high-profile nature of her crimes warranted continued maximum or medium security detention, regardless of technical classification metrics. Pamela Jo Bondi testimony before the House Appropriations Committee included specific reference to the Bureau of Prisons administrative review process, which she stated includes multi-level approval requirements for any inmate transfer involving changes to security classification, particularly for individuals whose cases receive significant public attention or involve sensitive victim populations. Pamela Jo Bondi indicated that while she could not disclose specific internal deliberations regarding Ghislaine Maxwell case due to ongoing privacy protections afforded to federal inmates under the First Step Act and Bureau regulations, the transfer underwent standard procedural review without intervention from political appointees within the Department of Justice. Committee members pressed for documentation showing the chain of approval for the transfer, with several requesting that the department produce classification review records and communication logs between Bureau administrators and department leadership during the relevant time frame. The congressional inquiry into Ghislaine Maxwell prison conditions extends beyond the security classification issue to encompass broader questions about federal inmate management policies and whether high-profile offenders receive preferential treatment in facility assignments compared to similarly situated defendants whose cases did not attract national media coverage. Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee and Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida were among those who submitted formal questions for the record following Pamela Jo Bondi Testimony seeking clarification on whether the Bureau of Prisons maintains special handling protocols for inmates whose cases involve politically connected individuals or substantial public interest. Pamela Jo Bondi responses delivered in subsequent written correspondence reiterated that classification decisions are made by career Bureau officials without input from department leadership, though she acknowledged that the Attorney General's office receives notification of significant inmate movements as a matter of administrative protocol. Ghislaine Maxwell conviction stemmed from a 6-week trial in the Southern District of New York where prosecutors established her role in recruiting and grooming minors for sexual abuse by Jeffrey Epstein, who died by suicide in August 2019 while awaiting trial at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan on related federal charges. The trial testimony included accounts from multiple victims who described Ghislaine Maxwell direct participation in abuse spanning from 1994 to 2004, with evidence presented showing her involvement in travel arrangements, financial payments, and normalization of sexual exploitation through manipulation and intimidation. Judge Allison J. Nathan, who presided over the trial and imposed the 200-year sentence, specifically noted Ghislaine Maxwell heinous and premeditated conduct during sentencing remarks, language that victim advocates have cited in arguing that her security classification should reflect the severity of her crimes regardless of institutional compliance metrics. The Bureau of Prisons has declared